joining me. I'm Scott, and this Enya carbon fiber guitar is going to get a setup today. We're going to be looking at the truss rod adjustment, how the neck is bolted on to the body. We're going to make an adjustment there. We'll also look at the saddle height and lowering that down, and lowering the individual string slots at the nut. So it's the whole ball of wax today. We'll even give it a listen. It has an onboard effects system here with delay and reverb. So let's get started by looking at the neck joint. So we're looking here through the sound hole of the guitar, and we'll see these two hex bolts. They hold the neck to the body. And what happened was the customer was trying to lower his action, and he read online that you can lift the body up, the neck up away from the body, and you could see you can get the strings a little closer to the frets this way. But since we're going to do it the correct way, which is adjusting the neck relief and the saddle and the nut slots, he asked me to go ahead and push this back down to where it belongs, right next to the body. So the first thing I do is tune it up to pitch. In this case we're in E standard tuning. You can hear the guitar sounds great. It does not have a woody sound, but it does have a nice chimey, bright sound. And then I measure the string gauge. In this case it's a 12 through 54 phosphor bronze. I've already written that down. Next thing I do is I measure the neck relief with the precision straight edge. This guitar has more than 10 thousandths of an inch. It has, to my surprise, just about 15 thousandths. Let's say 14. That is not good. That is way too much relief. A lot of times when we tighten the truss rod and we create less relief in the middle of the neck, we actually lower the action in the process. The action right now, measured in 64ths with this machinist's rule, is 7/64ths on the bass E and 5/64ths on the treble E. So E to E, we're a little high. Not tremendously high though, only about 1/64th too high. So usually when I tighten the truss rod and get the optimal neck relief of about 6 to 8 thousandths of an inch, we end up lowering this right where it needs to be. But we need to take this neck and loosen it and drop these strings down, or this neck down. So we're going to lower. We're going to detune all the strings to take all the tension off the neck to body joint. And we lost the 12 gauge E string. Okay, so let's loosen this neck. And it is a 4mm hex wrench. Probably the same wrench that's used up at the headstock to adjust the truss rod. Just reach in there and loosen both of the hex bolts. It'll take you a minute. And then we'll be able to push the neck back together. In my case, I'm going to actually put a clamp on here to hold it tight while I tighten the... I'm going to press that neck back down, and you should have seen that gap close. I'm going to open it back up so you can see. See that? There. Now I'll put that clamp on there and tighten the bolts. And there's my clamp. I didn't reef down on it. I just needed a little bit of pressure to hold it in place. And as you can see here, that 10 thousandths of an inch feeler gauge will not go between the body and the fretboard extension. It will up here though, but right here right here at the 90-degree corner, it's nice and tight. So I go in here and tighten the bolts. Remember, it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. And I don't think this is a type of joint that you need to put all of your strength into either. I think just get it snug and it should be fine. All right, and that's that. Now we'll adjust the truss rod. The truss rod adjustment fastener is under the truss rod cover. It just takes a Phillips screwdriver, a small one, and it's buried in there. And if you're wondering what this is the nut, and it is a tusk nut. Tusk, it's not made of elephant tusk. In the old days they used to make nuts out of ivory, but this is a man-made synthetic ivory made by a company in Canada, Tech. It's good stuff. It's kind of soft. It's very easy to shape. It has very consistent density to it though, which is kind of nice. This is my 4mm. Now I'm going to loosen it first. Okay, this thing is the nut is loose. Okay, now you can see the fastener. I'm going to try to loosen it. Man, that is tight. That has a ton of force on it. That's tightened in there like a mofo. I'm actually going to try to take this fastener all the way out so that I can get that neck to straighten a little better. This is a advanced surgery though. Stand by. This type of thing happens all the time on vintage guitars that have been used and abused, but oh, this is a two-way. There's no way I'm going to get this out of here. So this truss rod will adjust both ways. It'll create relief or it will take away the relief. What I'm going to need to do to help this neck out is to put it in a clamp, the entire neck. So put the entire neck in a clamp. This is no big deal for me. I do it almost every day on these vintage guitar restorations. For most people, never ever need to do this their entire life. Okay, these are just some string retainers. Next thing I'll do is get these two radiused blocks of wood. Place one at the 12th fret, and I'll place one at the 1st fret. And this has a 12-inch radius. The actual fretboard's radius might be a little different. I'll tell you what that is though. This is a radius gauge. And when I put it here to check this radius, it comes up as a 16-inch radius. Right here. 16-inch radius. So anyways, my 12-inch radius blocks are fine. They'll push down a little bit more on the outer edges than in the middle. Okay, and then I'll use that same clamp that I just used. That 6-inch bar clamp. Hold on here. This is actually just a 4-inch bar clamp. So what this does, when I tighten this, it's taking the neck here and it's pushing up on it as I tighten it. It's creating like a back bow. Right now this neck has an up bow, which is kind of in this shape. And as I tighten this, I'm forcing it into a back bow. And doing that will allow me to tighten this truss rod fastener way further than I could otherwise. So now that it's in a back bow, I'm going to tighten this baby good and snug. That's maxed out. That's as tight as you can get it. just going to have to live with whatever this is. Hopefully it's straightened out. I don't know. Yep, it still has relief in it. I may suggest lighter gauge strings to the customer because these 12s are just too heavy for this setup. 0.005 of an inch relief with no string tension, that's not good at all. That's unacceptable, really. You should be able to adjust the neck perfectly straight. Sorry guys, but I'm going to have to leave a bad review there on this. I put a small amount of tight bond wood glue right here on the nut. I'm going to put it on the end of the fretboard. A little bit here on the nut. That way when I put it back in, the next time to take the strings off, hopefully it won't fall out. But yeah, I'm going to have to recommend to anybody that has one of these or is thinking about buying one that you will be limited to really super duper light gauge strings due to the fact that the neck relief is pretty much unadjustable. So either 9s, 10s, or 11s would be the most I would put on this guitar. I'm going to see if the customer will be okay if I go put a set of 11s on it for him. And we'll put the truss rod cover back on. Excellent news. I talked to the customer. We're going to go down from 12 through 53 to 10 through 47. He likes phosphor bronze with the extended life coated strings. We're going with the D'Addario XT. They're great strings. Give them a try if you haven't tried them yet. They also have an XS. X is in X-ray, S is in Sam. It's in a white pack, and those have an additional, they're like double coated. Really slippery, but they're quieter. You know, when you slide your hand up and down the fretboard, they don't make as much noise. So that one broken string is not coming out. For whatever reason. Okay, the next thing we'll do is take the saddle out, and these saddles go a particular way, so you might want to make a mark on it to identify which side goes where. I noticed that the tusk wording is facing the nut up here, so that's a good way. I also like to just make a mark on the bass side of things. I also see that they put in a shim. This shim, or not a shim. Okay, that must be the piezo pickup. Under saddle piezo pickup. Yeah, that's what that is. That's not a shim. Sorry. Be careful if you reach inside of this guitar. There are a couple shards of carbon fiber. I just noticed I got poked a little bit. If that gets under your skin, you're in a lot of pain. Because carbon fiber is it's really not a good thing to have inside of your skin. And there's one little thing I'd like to give you guys as a warning. A real string breaker is this. On the inside of the guitar where you can't see it, there's a 90-degree corner with kind of sharp carbon fiber particles there. And what you need to do if you don't want your string to break as soon as you get it up to string tension is be mindful of these two little smaller pieces of string that wrap around the ball. You want to orient it where those strings aren't pressing right against that carbon fiber. You want to take a small pair of needle nose pliers and don't put a 90-degree bend in it, but just put a kind of a bend there to keep you mindful of the orientation of the string ball, and put it in. And do that for each one. I already did the A string. And this way your string doesn't snap on you. Your brand new string, I mean, nothing worse than a brand new string. It gets right up to tension, then pow! Right in the kissa. Brand new strings. Tune it up to pitch next and see where our action is. Okay, now that the neck is seated properly and I have the lighter gauge strings on, it went up to 8/64 on the bass side and 7/64 on the treble side, so it got worse, even with the truss rod all the way tightened. That means we're going to have to take all the excess off the saddle. So we'll detune it again, pull the saddle out, and take material off the bottom of it. And that's a lot of material. So I'm going to use my stationary belt sander, which is located in my workshop. So the amount I need to take off the bottom of this saddle is a full 1/8 of an inch, which is just a ton of material. I might just run this through the bandsaw first, which would be a quick little cut, and then just flatten it out on the belt sander. I'm back in the New York groove. So I'm fresh back from running this through the bandsaw and the belt sander. Alright, it's kind of low, but it's not too low. You always want to keep about a 1.5 millimeter projection above the wooden part. This wooden part's kind of high too, so we could always shave this down if we need to get lower in the future. Next, I'm going to look at the string height at the nut, and I can do that by tuning each string to pitch on the tuner and pressing down at the first fret to see if it frets sharp. Don't want to press too hard either, because you can make it fret sharp by pressing too hard. E looks okay, A, okay, D, okay, G, sharp. The G is about 10 cents sharp, so the G comes down. The B, 7 cents sharp. E, just go sharp. So it's the treble strings that need to come down at the nut. When taking these slots down, you want to be very careful not to go down too far. And you might need to loosen the string a little bit. I've got a 10 thousandths file. And I'm going to come down enough where I see a little bit of nut dust on the fretboard. I'm going to do this for each string. until it doesn't fret sharp at the first fret. That one's there. So the E is good. We'll do this with the other two strings, and then the guitar will be ready to go home and enjoyed with low action. We'll get a final action reading and do another demo. Appreciate you sticking around and hanging out with me today. Have a good one.